So my biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways in the most important time periods.
Yeah, well, and for sure. But Israel is intentionally dragging us into this war, and also Israel has.
I think you got Israel derangement syndrome.
Okay, well, I
call it Israel-Palestine derangement.
Okay, then let me. Well, so first of all.
I mean, what would you have the government do? I've heard you say a couple times that the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe, don't do it, is not going to get it done. And so I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country, and you seem to be suggesting that that duty cannot manifest itself in the government encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information.
Israel, this is on two separate. Do you know the story of Israel wiretapping the White House and blackmailing Bill Clinton?
No.
Okay, well, this is you can see this in the New York Post. There's been two independently written books on this.
Yeah, but do you know the story about the NSA wiretapping Angela Merkel?
What's going on, everybody? I got a lot of stories for today. The first one we're going to talk about is the Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, I believe her name is. She's complaining that the First Amendment limits the rights and the power of government, which is the whole reason it was created in the first place. So we're going to listen to that whole clip. And that's really crazy because I believe that if you're a lawyer or a judge or a Supreme Court justice, you're supposed to uphold the Constitution. That's like your whole foundation and promise. And apparently she does not understand the Constitution. Then we're going to talk about Tim Pool calling his guest, saying he had Israel derangement syndrome for bringing up things that Tim refuses to talk about. Bernie Sanders started a podcast. Los Angeles police are finally talking about the hundreds of burglaries they've had from foreign gangs that are just being very successful in America. We're going to talk about that. This girl that I talked about a couple months ago, maybe, or a month ago, her name was Isabella Duca. She blew up because, she had, I would say a nicely fitting shirt on, and she's an attractive woman, and people were debating about if that's a real trad wife or not. And apparently she is complicit in the January 6th, and they're arresting her over helping someone get a table that was used to hit police. Crazy stuff. And then I also want to briefly mention the whole media versus right-left bloodbath thing, and Donald Trump, and Joe Biden, just that sort of stuff. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. Give me a thumbs up if the sound sounds good. Since I have a lot of stories and a lot of videos to play, I'm not going to be able to read comments for most of the video. So just give me a thumbs up now, and then I'm going to get it cracking. Dreamer podcast starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on? Thank you guys so much for being here. And I apologize to Rumble. I think I forgot to go live on Rumble. I'm new to the Rumble live stream. It's starting to work for me. So I said I was going to be live on Rumble, but I think I forgot to click the Rumble button. My bad. Let's just play this first clip real quick because Biden, I don't know if hired is the right word. I believe nominated the Supreme Court Justice. Nominated, not hired, but same thing. Ketanji Brown Jackson, who, before he hired her, he said, I'm going to pick a black woman. I think he, led with that, saying he was going to pick someone like that. I don't think we care about the gender or the race, but if they don't believe in the First Amendment or understand the First Amendment, Houston, we have a problem. So let's listen to this clip. She's saying that the First Amendment kind of bothers her and it's in the way because it doesn't allow government to go after harmful misinformation, which is literally why the First Amendment's there. People need to remember this. The Constitution of America, it's not perfect and nothing in life is, but it's there to protect the citizens against the government. It's there to give you power against a tyrannical government. So when these government people and these media cronies, they come in and tell you this sort of stuff like, oh, it seems like the First Amendment's limiting our job to protect you. It's like, that's what it's there for. It's not there for the government to go after you. It's there for you to be able to speak against the government agenda, but they're going to frame it always in some sort of way that makes it seem like it's so bad they have to go after it. Anti-science, climate denier, anti-vaxxer, racist, sexist, xenophobic, conspiracy theorist, anti-Semitic, all of these words, like if they were just like, yeah, free speech is free speech, but if they could say, well, you speaking against the pharmaceutical industry is so dangerous that it's going to hurt millions of people, that's anti-science. This is how they operate, and this is how they give themselves justification to take away our rights. So let's listen to the clip.
Justice Jackson?
So my biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways in the most important time periods. I mean, what would you have the government do? I've heard you say a couple times that the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe, don't do it, is not going to get it done. And so I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country, and you seem to be suggesting that that duty cannot manifest itself in the government encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information. So can you help me? Because I'm really worried about that, because you've got the First Amendment operating in an environment of threatening circumstances from the government's perspective, and you're saying that the government can't interact with the source of those problems.
And Your Honor, I understand that instinct, and I guess what I tell you is
A few people were in the chat. They're like, I can't listen to her. Bye. I was like, damn, I can't even play a minute clip of her for context without people leaving. That's fine. But so this apparently the court case, because I'm unfamiliar with it. Murthy versus Missouri. I'm reading it now. Murthy versus Missouri is a case pending in the Supreme Court involving the First Amendment, the federal government, and social media in Missouri and Louisiana. And they claim that the federal government pressured social media companies to censor conservative views and criticism of the Biden administration in violation of our right of the freedom of expression. Now, when that took place, I'm not sure if this is during COVID. It looks like it is. There's criticism of mask mandates during the COVID-19 pandemic, student loans, stuff like that. So it crosses the boundaries of being critical of the Biden administration and their COVID policy. So her justification is just basically like, the First Amendment's kind of in our way because freedom of speech. Like, how are we going to stop these people from disagreeing with our agenda? It's like, you're not. Your job is not to stop the American people from questioning the pharmaceutical industry and the government. And it's hard to explain, or maybe it's not so hard to explain, because I think instinctually everybody knows what's going on, but not enough people where this stuff doesn't keep happening. So the easiest way that I could think to describe it is like, just like a politician can be bought, just like a athlete sells Subway sandwiches because they got paid by Subway, or Aaron Rodgers sells State Farm because they paid him. It's not like Aaron Rodgers woke up one day and was like, I really like State Farm insurance. They pay him. All these athletes are basically, and he's one of the more ethical ones. I just thought of him because I know he's a State Farm employee or whatever, contractor. He's a sponsored by them. It's the same thing with science. Like when there's billions and trillions of dollars going around in the Food and Drug Administration, who could get permits, who could get in certain stores, there's politics and money involved in that as well. And I would say really naive people just assume that government really cares about you, media really cares about you, and if they say science, that means that it's science, And it's hard to get enough people on our side because so many people are falling for that. And one of the issues I believe is, and I'm not pointing blame because everybody deserves to have their First Amendment and they don't have to say it the way I want to say it. That's the beauty of the First Amendment. But I do think a lot of conservatives and Republicans, when they talk about science, they're not very convincing. They just sound like, get off my lawn, I don't want to listen, which is totally fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with get off my lawn, I don't want to listen to you. I think that's like a totally fine way to act. But when it comes to the art of public perception and public persuasion, I think that Democrats have mastered that. And that's why so many people believe them. It's not because they're right, but they're better at convincing a lot of people that they are right. And that's why I try to do my best to be convincing, because of course I could just say, I don't want to wear a mask, get out of my face. I don't want to listen to the pharmaceutical industry, get out of my face. I could say that, but of course, during the COVID pandemic, I did my best to really scientifically explain through studies, through mainstream media articles and top scientists, where it's like, it's not like Pfizer says something and that's what science is. Like, Pfizer created science. Science has been around before Pfizer existed, and it'll be here long after that. So, and when you look at politics politicians are being paid by big pharma. Big pharma is inserting their people into politics to benefit their industry. Their industry is ripe with corruption, bad products, lawsuits, fines, criminal activity. Like the history of the pharmaceutical industry. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. So this idea that, Ketanji Brown Jackson has, and a lot of liberals and even some naive centrists or whatever, is just like, oh, when they say science, that's science, and everybody else is a conspiracy theorist. And it's like, you can go back to some of the brightest scientists, which they make it hard to talk about. I'm not involved in that lawsuit by any means, but I think that they've probably, taken away tens or maybe even six figures from me over censorship. I'm not really sure. I haven't counted and really looked into it, but like, I do feel like I'm a quote unquote victim of their, suppression. Like, I put up a video of Carrie Mullis, the Nobel Prize winning inventor of the PCR test, and they took my video down. They demonetized my channel. They shut it down. And this is not like a random drunk uncle at a barbecue, like spouting off their opinions about Tony Fauci. This is like the Nobel Prize winning inventor of the test that they're using. And social media sites wouldn't even let me spread interviews from this guy, because in his interviews, he questioned their agenda. In his interviews, he questioned the medical consensus. And what he said was there's no such thing. It's not a popularity contest. It's like, if I invent the PCR test and 1,000 stupid scientists say I can't do it, but I do it, it's not a popularity contest. Often in science, the brightest minds are the ones who renovate the whole thought consensus of the science. So it's like, if they say you can't hit 70 home runs, it's not possible for a human to do that in a baseball season, and then some baseball player comes along and hits 70 home runs, it's not all the doubters and people who said it couldn't happen. The guy who did it is the most impressive player. And it's the same thing as science. It's not like everyone opinion is what makes science true. It's the people who stray from the popularity contest who end up being the most unique and creative people, who are usually the ones who invent the PCR test or, revolutionize science in a way that it wasn't known before. And that's really what science is. Like, every technological advancement in science wasn't someone playing along by the books. It was someone who thought outside of what they were taught in order to make something new and special. So, that's the most obvious example that I could say of why people should be able to question this sort of stuff. And, the stuff they did, I don't really want to rehash it because it's not fun to think about. But the mask mandates, the lockdowns, just forcing people to wear pharmaceutical masks and shutting down their videos, taking down comedy videos, and not allowing people to not say that they didn't want to wear it. I mean, that's like slave master, psychotic, tyrant behavior. It's just unbelievable. Andrew Jackson said, I just watched and read some comments under Tim Pool's video. At least a lot of people are seeing him for the balding Israel shill that he is. Oh my gosh. Well, Andrew, thanks for the super chat, but I got to get back to the videos, but I do appreciate the super chat. I'm going to get into that story second real quick, but I do want to play this clip because, the whole Trump bloodbath. Well, let me wrap up this section. I can't possibly disagree with Ketanji Brown Jackson more. The Biden administration knows what he's doing. Of course, he hired or nominated a Supreme Court justice who, is anti-First Amendment. I don't think this is random. They don't understand that it's there to limit the government. They don't understand that they're not right about everything. And it's not like they're even trying to be right, in my opinion. Like, I don't believe this theory that people say, oh, Trump messed up, Tony Fauci messed up, Pfizer messed up, Moderna messed up. They meant their best. They didn't know what they were doing. Like, Republicans had to play along. I don't believe that. Other people do. You can. I don't. I believe they all knew what they were doing. Some people made mistakes, sure. But this is not how they operate. Like, they made a $40 billion in their pocket mistake. Like, they got pharmaceutical lobbying money and then they made a mistake. That's not a mistake. It's like, if I sell garbage, but I just got $5 million from the garbage industrial complex, it's probably not a mistake. It's probably just they bought me off. So that's what I think happened there. So, it's not just like, oh, the scientists get it wrong sometimes. They're being paid off like every industry. So it's just like other countries that aren't as maybe cultured as America. I don't even know if I would say that, but like, there's a lot of really corrupt countries around the world. And it's not rocket science of how they got corrupt, or like they're not making mistakes. It's like a pay to play, big bank take little bank situation going on. And that's what happened with the pharmaceutical industry and the government. So, hopefully the Supreme Court isn't as dumb as that one justice is, and hopefully justice is served. But one concerning thing I will say before I move on with how slow the Supreme Court moves, it's like if they can do this for 3 years and then you talk about it 5 years later, this is why Democrats win and why they do what they do, because they know how slow the courts move. It's like when you're talking about lockdowns and First Amendment infringements and people losing businesses, it's a matter of like days, weeks, and months. If you take 6 years to say that's against the First Amendment, Democrats don't care because they already did it, and some Republicans. It's like how slow this Supreme Court moves is just astonishing. Like they do vaccine mandates and then 2 years later they like talk about it in the Supreme Court. Shouldn't the Supreme Court move a little bit faster on important issues? But then I guess it would be up to them to decide what's important and what's not. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. But as a spectator who doesn't fully understand how the system operates, I'm just shocked at how slow they moved during the pandemic. And now they're talking about all this crap that we knew 5 years ago. Even if they rule that the government was wrong, what's going to happen? Nothing, So I don't even understand what the point is at this point, but I appreciate them visiting it. Now, I wanted to show this. It's a little off topic, but Donald Trump tweeted out today something about like, how were you 4 years ago? And it's funny because I spent the first 16 minutes kind of dunking on the Biden administration. Biden sucks. I don't think people should vote for him just based off of his Supreme Court justice choices. I think he's going to gut the country from within. Even Trump's bad choices are still better than Biden's Supreme Court justices. So like, there is, I think, domestic incentive to vote for Donald Trump for these reasons. But it's like, I've been talking about how I don't think Trump's real opposition. And the bloodbath thing that they're saying of Trump, I'll talk about that. But just look at this real quick. It's kind of funny. So this user named Justin Hart realized that Donald Trump, he put on Truth Social in all caps, of course. He said, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" in all caps. And this guy said, "I can't believe Trump posted this today. Hey guys, where were you exactly 4 years ago?" So Trump is like, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" And another user noticed that 4 years ago, literally to this day, Trump tweeted 15 days to slow the spread that told people to avoid crowds of social gatherings of more than 10 people. So it's like, the lack of self-awareness from both parties is just astonishing. Like, Trump, and this is something that I've noticed when I've gone to like conservative speaking gigs and stuff. I hosted this event a couple years ago and it was like all conservative speakers, and they would all get up there and be like, "Yo, 4 years of Donald Trump, the economy was booming. Everything was great. 4 years, 4 years." And I kept thinking to myself when I was watching, because I couldn't say anything. I was just like the host introducing people. But I'm like, it really wasn't 4 years. It was more like 3 years. And then the COVID pandemic just like kind of messed everything up. And I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying like, it's like everybody in the Trump movement kind of gaslights themselves into believing that never happened. So it's not shocking to me that Trump doesn't even remember it. So he'll say on the literal eve of 15 days to slow the spread, he'll say, "How was your life? Wasn't it better 4 years ago?" And it's like, not really. No, I mean, unless you're going for like the nostalgic, didn't you like to lock down so you could spend more time with people or play video games or just stay at home and not have to work? Like if you're going for that nostalgic, didn't you enjoy not having to like drive or travel? Then I guess it would make sense. But Trump's tweeting it out like he doesn't even know that the whole country was locked down 4 years ago. And he's just like, "Wasn't your life better 4 years ago?" And it's like, I mean, yes and no, but not like particularly. No, I wouldn't. It wasn't good for like the country or the economy or the freedom or liberty or like personally. I just played a lot of video games and got fatter. It's not the worst time I've ever had, but like it's just like so like everything's just so fake in politics and everyone's so like dumb, And the media, I don't feel like covering this because I feel like it's just like so 2017 to like react to the media and be like, "Oh, they lied." All they do is lie. Like it's just tiresome. But I guess Trump said something about there's going to be a bloodbath in this country for the auto industry, or it's going to be a bloodbath if I don't win. Like it was clear that he was talking about like economically and just like this country is going to suck if he loses, which is probably true. It might be true if he wins too, but I think if he loses, this country will suck more. And the media is freaking out and trying to go with this angle that like Trump's going to do something again. And, a lot of people believe that because of the whole January 6th thing, they actually like buy into that narrative that Trump's so dangerous. And in some ways, Trump is kind of a goofball. But, you know, I did see this clip. I think it was like MRCTV or something, some account that I follow that's like a right-wing watchdog organization. That's always been cool with me. They actually helped me when the media was like smearing me over the COVID stuff, so I appreciate them. I think it's MRCTV. They did a whole compilation. I can't play it because now they'll probably take my account. Like I can't make money on Facebook for the next couple months because I share clips like everybody else. I don't even know, so I didn't want to share this clip. But the media has said the word bloodbath like 100 times. Like left-wing media has said like it's going to be a bloodbath election. And, like this is a synonym for like it's going to be a blowout. Like if you think Trump's going to win by 40 points, you could say like it's going to be a bloodbath at the polls. You know, people have said this word so many times. Like major left-wing figures have said it, but Trump says it one time, they freak out, and then the right reacts to their freak out. And this is what I figured out. It's similar to the Supreme Court case, right? The Democrats and Republicans, but mostly Democrats, will infringe heavily on your rights for 2 years during the COVID pandemic, right? We react, they take our stuff, and then by the time we get like retribution on it or whatever you want to call it, like a fair trial, it's too late. Like whether we win or lose that court case, you know, over the Missouri First Amendment COVID stuff, it doesn't matter. They won. They won the pandemic. They locked down. The pharmaceutical industry made a fortune. They forced millions of people to get it. 80% of the country got vaccinated, and they made Pfizer made a fortune. It doesn't matter if we win the court case. Democrats think this way. They're very smart. You know, they're like, we're going to win even if we lose. So to me, it's like talking about the bloodbath and stuff. It's like defending Trump every day. They don't care that you're defending Trump because they have you on the defense. They have you scared of words. They have you saying sorry. They have you making excuses for things. And of course, somebody has to do it. It's not like no one can address this stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't believe the Democrats even really care because at bare minimum, they waste your time. They waste 3 years of Russia collusion. And you're like, Trump didn't do it. But instead of Trump actually doing stuff proactively, he's like having to sit in court and defend himself, and everyone's defending him. So with this bloodbath thing, it just reminds me of like the Democrat narrative. And Joe Biden tweeted something on X or whatever, and it was like the craziest video ever. It was like Trump saying something, and then like the craziest like right-wing nationalist clips or whatever, like making this compilation, just making it seem like Trump is like the leader of like the KKK or something. And it's like, it's not even remotely true, or like it was all cut out of context and like different groups that like Trump has nothing to do with. And like, it's like, that's their campaign slogan. Like they can't really beat Trump on issues, or at least that many issues. So they're leaning into this like story of it, you know, like Trump is like a villain and they just need to make him seem as crazy as possible. They're like bloodbath, like that's their campaign strategy. It's not to lean into like, you know, policy or facts. It's to lean into emotion and fear to get people to vote for Biden out of fear that Trump supporters are going to act crazy. And if you look at certain people enough, there are a lot of crazy people out there. So it's like, it's not hard to see why left wingers do see that. I'm not saying it's like, it is exaggerated. I'm not saying it's not, but it's just like a whole time suck that I'm just not really interested in spending anymore. But yeah, I know that's going to be talked about for the next like 5 weeks, and Biden's going to milk it out, and Republicans are going to defend themselves. And I have a lot of other things I want to talk about, so I'm going to move on. So here's 2 clips of Tim Pool. I just saw this. I don't know if it was on Instagram or X or whatever, but you know, I saw I guess the guest that Tim had on is a man named Liam Cosgrove. I'm not familiar with him, but I did watch a 10-minute clip of them talking. And the dude seemed very authentic, for at least that I could gauge. Like he seemed very authentic, very reasonable. And Tim, like I've said this a bunch, but I just don't like Tim. You know, I don't like his personality. I don't like his demeanor. I don't like how condescendingly he talks to his guests. And it's not like he's condescending and he's right and he's just talking down to a stupid person. It's like he talks down to people smarter and more honest than him, and basically just tries to gatekeep certain narratives that maybe he thinks will lose him sponsorship deals or donors or, you know, business or like YouTube algorithms or something. So he just yells at them condescendingly when they talk about things that he doesn't want to talk about. But it's not like he's making a good point. He kind of reminds me of like an MSNBC host where you like bring up income tax and they just yell over you and try to make you look crazy with this like weird energy. I've never liked him for that reason. And I mean, this clip kind of explains it, because the Cosgrove guy seemed very reasonable, and Tim accused him of having like Israel derangement syndrome, and then started making like examples that really didn't make that much sense. So I'm gonna play the 2 clips, then I'll react to it.
Trump.
Yeah, and for sure. But Israel is intentionally dragging us into this war, and also Israel has
I think you got Israel derangement syndrome.
Okay, well,
I call it Israel-Palestine derangement.
Okay, then let me. Well, so first of all, Israel. This is on two separate. Do you know the story of Israel wiretapping the White House and blackmailing Bill Clinton?
No.
Okay, well, this is you can see this in the New York Post. There's been 2 independently written books on this.
Yeah, but do you know the story about the NSA wiretapping Angela Merkel?
So like Tim kind of writes it off. He's like, no, you have derangement syndrome. And the guy's like, did you hear the story of the wiretapping and the blackmailing? And Tim's like, did you hear that America did that to Angela Merkel? Where it's like, okay, sure. But like, also, why are you trying so hard to like not hear out what he's saying? Here's the second clip. It's like a 10, 11-minute clip. I just didn't feel like playing the whole thing.
No, okay, sure. I'm just saying.
Look.
No, I'm giving you examples of Israel doesn't treat us like an ally. Israel ropes us into these things because they know we're going to back
Germany
them up.
like an ally, which is the point.
No, I know, but
welcome to international espionage and warfare.
But if you're America first, why would you want to get exploited into this war in the Middle East that you care so little about?
Why are you trying to make me single on Israel when all of these other countries are doing equally or worse things?
Ethiopia, Afghanistan, Yemen.
Because it's not
Egypt,
the money. Hamas doesn't have a lobbying wing in D.C.
Yes, it does.
That captures all your politicians.
I don't want to say her name.
So no offense, like I don't watch the show enough. Like I don't know who these co-hosts he has on, but he always has like the least impressive, like, crew around him. And then of course there's always like a smart guest sometimes. But this conversation goes on for 11 minutes. So you got to really listen to the whole thing to get the full context. The example I've been using over the last 2 years is like, if you talk about Ukraine often, like say you talk about Ukraine and criticize Ukraine and say that Ukraine's controlling American politics more than you talk about Poland or other of our allies, it doesn't mean you hate Ukraine or you have Ukraine derangement syndrome. It just means you identified that Ukraine is near the center of American foreign policy and it seems like they're a bigger player. So you're talking about them more right now. Like I don't talk about Canada as an ally that much because it doesn't seem like they're influencing American foreign policy as much as Israel and Ukraine. So Tim knows this. I mean, Tim talks about Ukraine more than he talks about probably any foreign country. And no one accuses Tim. I mean, at least not in the right wing, maybe in the left wing, but no one accuses Tim of having Ukraine derangement syndrome. We all know why Tim's talking about Ukraine a lot, and there's really nothing wrong with it. It's like Ukraine has taken hundreds of billions of dollars from America. Ukraine is fighting Russia. They're, involving us in this war essentially in Ukraine. So it's natural for an American citizen to talk about that country more than another country. Like everyone knows that. It's very elementary, very rudimentary. But when it comes to Israel, Tim has to act like he doesn't understand that concept at all. He starts talking about Yemen and Afghanistan and all these other allies or people that we do certain deals with. And it's like, if you listen to that whole thing, the guy explains how over the last 70, 80 years, Israel's taken even more money than Ukraine in American aid. And this is what they always say is like, oh, if you focus on that or you talk about that more than other countries, you must hate all these people. And it's like, if Italy was taking hundreds of billions of dollars of foreign aid, I'd probably be talking about Italy more than Israel. If there was a war in Italy that, the leaders said that they needed $100 billion or $15 billion and, laws in America to prevent us from talking about it, then I'd be talking about Italy more than Israel or Ukraine. It's just that's not what's going on. And everybody knows it. So, the 2 hot countries right now when it comes to the foreign wars would be Israel versus Palestine and Ukraine versus Russia. So it's like in a good faith argument, even if you believed whatever Tim pretends to believe, I don't know if he has any beliefs, but like you wouldn't talk to somebody the way he talked to him. Like the whole thing was just like a giant cover up. The whole thing was like, you're deranged, you're crazy. Like you just, and like the guy the whole time was just calmly explaining himself. He was like, I'm not deranged and I'm not, he's like, there's one of the biggest foreign lobbies in government is what he was talking about. People talk about APEC all the time, and you could look at a lot of Democrats and Republicans, and if they say like, I stand with Israel, cool, that's really nice, God bless you. What do you mean by that? Like, do you mean like you love the country, or are you getting like paid? Like that'd be like, I stand with Pfizer. Like, is it because you really believe in their technology, or are you a stock owner, or are you getting paid by them? There's a huge difference. If you believe in their technology and you stand with them, cool. But if you're getting paid by them, you're not standing with them. You're just getting paid off like everyone does. So that's what the trend you see in politics. And, I've never done like a direct study of like who's influencing politicians the most. But if I could guess, I would say that the pharmaceutical industry is number one. And, the Israel lobby has to be pretty up there. APAC is pretty heavy involved, but I'm sure there could be others that are bigger. But, I would have no problem with seeing like the entire list of countries that are funding politicians. I would say a lot of foreign lobbying like that is like under the table or not allowed because it's like, taboo. But with Israel, it's not taboo. It's just like right there and you can't even talk about it. So that was the point the guy was making. I have no idea which country is the most, or, I haven't looked at these lists, but like he's just trying to have that discussion calm. He's not yelling. He's not talking down to Tim. And the whole time it was like 11 minutes of Tim just calling him deranged, saying like he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's crazy. He just focuses on them. He's being a hater. You shouldn't talk about that because we've done this to that country. And it's like the whole thing is like crazy. Like I feel like I'm watching Don Lemon talk to Elon Musk or something, which I barely watched because who cares about Don Lemon? I don't even want to give this guy attention. But it just seems so fake. And that's why I've never like I really wish I did get to go on Tim one time because I would have been interested to see the dynamic of like how he speaks to people. Cause like I wouldn't allow him to speak to me that way. He could disagree. He could, be a little pushy or something. That's fine. I like a good debate. I like a little fiery debate. But the way he talks to people, it's so like slimy. It's just basically like he's just like talking down to them so arrogantly. And 9 out of 10 times when he's arrogantly talking down to somebody, he's wrong about what he's talking about. So it's one thing to be condescending. It's another thing to be condescending and clearly just trying to gatekeep certain narratives. And, I'm not going to speculate, but a lot of people, they just think Tim likes money. So, whenever someone talks about something that Tim feels like he might lose money for, that he just quickly goes at it. Part of that I can understand because like if it's your channel and somebody like goes and says something crazy that's like totally not true and you're going to get in trouble for it, it's not your guest that's going to get in trouble for it. It's you that's going to get in trouble for it. You understand? Like I built this page. If someone comes on here and says some like thing that I don't believe or that I know is against YouTube policies and then my channel gets taken down, it's annoying. But, it does seem Tim's gone beyond that. Like he doesn't just try to count because YouTube has these weird policies. Like if someone says something that they don't want you to say, they want someone to counter it or like have someone on there to at least have a discussion, or else they just like if you say it as if it's fact and you're not sure about it, they can like flag your video. So I know part of why he does that is that. But on the Israel stuff, I don't think you really get flagged for saying what the other guy's saying. I just think in conservative media, you definitely lose a lot of access and you lose a lot of opportunities. So, I don't think when Tim gatekeeps that topic, it's because of a YouTube policy. I think it's because he knows that a lot of people surrounding him, would not appreciate or like if it went there. So like he kind of like doesn't go there and like acts like it's crazy because he knows that it'll open more doors for him. That's what I think. I mean, overall, I don't really care, but it's interesting. Like someone said in his comment section, like I haven't looked at his YouTube, but everybody knows this stuff now on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram. Like it's like, it's no secret, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I talked about this. No one understood what I was talking about. Now everybody knows, like everyone, that's why they want to shut down TikTok, in my opinion. It's like, everybody knows after TikTok, they'll probably come for X because like everybody, like this act Tim is putting on, it's not popular. It's not like everybody buys it. It's like he's blatantly being sneaky and everybody knows it. So, I'm just going to let things play out as they will. And it's not really up to me, but it's not working anymore. Like everybody sees through it. Next thing I want to talk about, there's a few, but here's this chick. I talked about this chick a month or two ago because she went viral. Like I'm just going to be honest. She has like big boobs. I'm sorry. I couldn't think of like a PC way to say that. She has big boobs and she wore this tight fitting shirt, which showed off, and she's very attractive. She's hot. And then people were like, is she looking for attention? Like the food wasn't even in the like frame. It was like, she just wanted people to look at her, but then she was also cooking. And like, it just started this whole debate that I didn't care about. But anyway, that chick, her name is Isabella Duca. She was charged for breaching the Capitol on January 6th and helping steal a table that was later used to attack police. On one hand, I mean, there's a few different angles of this. On one hand, a lot of people are saying it's crazy that they're still going after conservatives for January 6th. They didn't have this fervor with pretty much anything. I'm going to talk about the gangs that are robbing people in LA. They don't seem to have any fervor to go after them. the BLM riots, they don't seem like they have the same like RICO like vibes that, like, I'm not saying they're RICO charging people, but it's like they're like friend of friend, like they're so badly trying to get anybody even remotely connected to the Capitol. And it's like they're spending so much time and energy on this, and there's been way worse things that have happened in this country that they just don't seem to give a crap about. So it's like 4 years later and they're still arresting people. A lot of people don't like that, me included. I think it's unnecessary. The second thing would be, you know, people are saying that she's a woman, like there's not really much she could have done, you know, like, well, how big of a threat is that chick, you know, which I also could see. The third thing is, like, I mean, this is just coming from me, I haven't really seen it. Does nobody have the self-awareness to not like steal a table? Like, what do you think's going to happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is where I'm not going to back the psycho Biden administration, because they're doing way too much with the Capitol, and they're going over the top with like a lot of people. But in the case of this, if it's true, I don't even know if it's true. If she did steal a table, it's like, does nobody know stealing a table on federal property is going to get you in court? Like that, you know, like just because you're a Trump supporter or Republican, like you still got to like know these things, you know, like I there's never a situation ever where I wasn't at the Capitol, but even if I was, there's no way I would be stealing a table. Like I would know that that's a crime. And especially when you commit crimes on federal property, it's an even bigger crime. You know what I'm saying? Like this is like basic law. Like I just know, like, yeah, you don't fuck around like that. So, you know, as annoying as it is that they're charging everyone, it's like, does anybody have like an out, like people just while out because they like Trump or something? Like, I don't really get it. Like, oh, we're mad. Okay, so you're going to steal a table. What are you going to do at the table? And then the table gets used for hitting someone and you get blamed for it. I'm sure she did nothing, but was just caught in the moment. Like a lot of people, like, man, this, you know, I see the correlation as well to the BLM riots, and I'm not making excuses for the BLM riots, and I'm not making excuses for January 6th, to be honest. But when you lock human beings in a house like an animal, people want to get out of the house. So like with the BLM riots, these people were caged up for 3 months like animals, you know? So like you let people out, you tell them someone died, and like BLM, George Floyd, and people start losing it. It doesn't, I'm not justifying it. You shouldn't have like burned down cop cars in your neighborhood. I'm not justifying it, but the government, I believe, should take some accountability for locking people in the house for so long. And they treated Trump supporters like shit for 4 years. They locked them down for months. You know what I'm saying? They lied about them for years. The media treated them like shit, and people got pissed off. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying, like, you know, there's a full circle of like, if you want to be an honest person, you got to like admit, well, we could have done this a little better. And I don't find it coincidental that both the left and the right had their freak out moment after the lockdowns. The freak out moment for the left was George Floyd. The freak out moment for the right was January 6th. I believe they were both kind of traps. You know, I don't, as much as the government says they don't like them, I don't know if I really believe that. I don't think all of the government likes it and every agent wanted it. Of course not. Like, there's good people in the government, I'm sure. But the guys that you see on TV and the Bidens and the Mayorkas and stuff of the world, and I'm not blaming Mayorka for this, I'm just saying, like, those type of politicians, are you going to tell me, like, Kamala Harris, did she not want the riots to continue? That's not the vibe that I was getting. In my view, as much as I don't, you know, I talk the truth about both sides, I think Trump probably did more, like, once people started freaking out to say, like, don't do that, he seemed a little more clear of like, don't do that, than even the left did. I don't remember left wingers being like, yo, stop doing that. It was like day 3 of burning down the city, and you couldn't really find a left winger that was condemning it. Like, at least Trump condemned it. I mean, it was a little too late, but, you know, he did say, like, don't do that. And like, I don't remember any left wing media people saying don't do that. They were justifying it the whole time. So they're giving the message to these people burning down the cities, like, you know, it's okay. But right wingers don't get the same treatment. And I think especially when you do stuff at, you know, the capital of the country, it's a more, they're going to crack down harder at you. You steal a table from a restaurant, it's a crime. You steal a table from the Capitol, you're probably going to get charged more. That's just the reality of the situation. You know, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I don't know. This is the problem with the two parties. Like, I don't know what anyone's doing anymore. So I just kind of try to stay to myself, because I'm not the January 6th thing. I never really understood it like to the full extent. Like, I got people were upset and whatever, but I was like, wait, you think Mike Pence is going to overturn the election? Wait, you're going to fly on a plane and wear a mask to go to DC to take selfies at the, like, it's just like never. And then Trump selling Moderna shots, like my red flags were going up in my head. I was like, something's off about this, but a lot of people didn't see that. And now they're charging more people. I mean, what are they going to be charging people for the next 40 years now? It's ridiculous, but it's my thoughts on it. Next thing I want to talk about real quick, it's kind of similar-ish. So I can't play this clip because I don't feel like getting flagged for intellectual property or whatever Facebook did to me. But N Wokeness posted, breaking, LAPD forms a special task force to combat organized foreign gangs burglarizing homes. The organized gangs are coming from Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, Chile, etc. Over 900 homes in Los Angeles were burglarized since January 2024. Similar patterns are emerging here in Arizona. So over 900 homes in the LA County were burglarized by foreign gangs. I've heard about this a lot. These foreign gangs are coming from South America, and they're very skilled at home burglary. Like, say you have a mansion and they know you're rich, they stalk you. They figure out when you're not going to be home, and then they rob your house if you're super wealthy, and they know that you probably have some sort of valuable property. And they're so precise about it. Like, from what I've heard, they know how to get under alarm systems and do all this really like high level complex stuff. They're not just drunk idiots committing a crime. They're like seasoned, intelligent, like criminal gangs from foreign countries that are highly organized and highly skilled at theft. It's been happening all the time, not just in LA County, but other counties. And this is my thing about the whole January 6th thing. If you steal a table out of the Capitol, like, you're going to get charged with something. I don't think you should go to jail for very long, but like, that's not a smart thing to do. With that being said, like, what about these foreign criminals that are like robbing Americans? Like, does anyone care? I guarantee you that Black people have been robbed, Jewish people, Christian, white, like all these ethnicities they claim to care about. I bet you everybody's been robbed by these idiots, but they don't care. Like, diversity, diversity. We can all get robbed in LA. Like, that's true diversity. It's like, they always virtue signal to certain races, like they care about you, but it doesn't matter what you are. They don't care about you. Cause it's like, I don't know whether local or federal government should get involved, but if you could spend 4 years arresting like hot, conservative trad wives or wannabe trad wives or whatever they are, or whoever, whatever that is, like if you could spend 4 years doing that, why not spend 4 years making sure that no criminal foreign gangs are robbing people like that? It doesn't seem like they're using all their energy on like the MAGA Trump stuff. Like, I made a joke on Twitter. I said, why not, if we could change these gang names to like MAGA gang and like TikTok gang, for these foreign gangs, then they'd care about it. Then the Biden administration would be like, they're out of control. Because it seems like Biden cares more about TikTok and MAGA than they do hundreds or thousands of houses getting robbed by criminal gangs. Like that's a total invasion of privacy where, burglary is going up and nobody seems to care about it. Not Mayorkas, not Biden, not, I'm sure some people in the FBI care about it. Not all of them are bad, or I don't know what the CIA does, if they even handle that, or it's just the FBI. But, isn't that their kind of forte? Like, it's not like, oh, that's a state. It's like they're not even from the state. They're probably not even from LA. They're from Ecuador and stuff. They're crossing the border. Like, I don't know if that's Department of Homeland Security or FBI or like somebody, I don't know, the drug, what are the, I forget, there's like a drug seizing people that try to seize drugs at the border. Someone's got to be on this stuff, maybe sharing information to figure it out. But to me, I just feel like they don't care about that stuff. And that's why I don't believe the TikTok ban. Like, this is my personal opinion. If you think they're banning like if you believe Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro and people like this, like, oh, they're banning TikTok because it's just so bad for national security, you have to be a moron to think that this administration or any administration really cares about national security. Like, it's so obvious they don't. Like, close the border, then I'll believe you care about national security. Have the fervor that you go after MAGA and TikTok and go after these foreign criminal gangs, and then I'll believe you care about my national security. But when you're doing literally every aspect of everything wrong in every facet of society, like, I'm not dumb enough to believe that you're doing one thing for my national security, yet 20,000 things you're purposely doing wrong, and then censoring people who are trying to fix it, which is what they're doing. Not only are they doing the most like backwards thing, but they're trying to stop people from even like doing the right thing. So, people got to really wake up to what's going on. And I would say, once you wake up, it's like, what could you really do? The best that I could think of for my job is like being persuasive, which is why I'm not a fan of like the Tim Pools of the world, and I'm not saying they're the worst at this, but like it does feel like a lot of Republican their job is just to like not do anything but like yell about the problem, but then not convince enough people. Like, I have conversations with people that like aren't into like conservatives, and I get why, because it's like they just yell and point, but like they're not speaking from a place of like empathy and thoughtfulness. So then they don't pick up enough people. And that's kind of the name of the game. It's like a lot of this stuff will change when enough people know that it's not right. And how could LA, how much longer can LA and San Francisco ignore the problem of theft and trash all over the streets? Like there's going to be a day very soon where these people wake up, but they need a place to go, or at least like someone that can convince them. So we'll see what happens. Last story I want to talk about, or possibly second to last story. I don't know if I have one more. So apparently Bernie Sanders and the 1% Bernie Sanders is starting his own podcast. He said, "I'm excited to announce this week that I'm launching a new podcast. In the first few episodes, we'll discuss my recent book, It's Okay to Be Angry About Capitalism." Glenn Greenwald had the best response. He said, "Bernie Sanders is going to spend the year once again posturing as some sort of left-wing socialist radical, all to lure and seduce angry leftists to come back to him so they can tell him to vote for Joe Biden. That's the only function he and AOC serve." I believe that 100%. Yeah, I mean, Bernie's brand was really strong in 2016. And if you go through the history of Bernie Sanders, like he's not as bad as people think he was like before 2016. Like he actually was against H-1B work visas. He seemed very like nationalistic on like I would say like American wages and stuff. Like he wasn't as left as he always was, as far as like he wasn't like, oh, let's just have unfettered illegal immigration. He used to say that was even legal immigration needed to be limited. Like Bernie actually went further than Trump did like 10 years ago, which you wouldn't believe, but I have the clips. I made a video about it. Ever since like 2016, he like, I don't know if it's because he's old or he's always been fake, and it's just like everyone's revealing themselves. But Bernie is a clown. He's not like, nope. He lost all his luster. I don't think that many people really believe him. And now he's trying to start a podcast. I agree with Glenn Greenwald. It's just going to be like the 1%, the corrupt, vote for Joe Biden. It's like, all right, like it's just a funnel to Joe Biden. It's not, there's no revolution. AOC has been in hot water too, because a lot of the left-wing protesters are pro-Palestine and critical of Israel. And, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib are like proudly on their side. AOC, not so much. She kind of plays both sides. And I saw this clip like a couple weeks ago. I might have talked about it, but I don't remember. AOC was getting like harassed at like a theater by left-wingers who said she wasn't pro-Palestine enough. Like, where are you, AOC? Why aren't you saying much? I don't follow AOC to know what she said, because whether she's pro-Palestine or pro-Israel, like I don't look to AOC for guidance or anything. So it's like I could care less what her stance is, to be quite fair. But she's probably caught in between a rock and a hard place, because when you're a left-wing politician, the pressure is very hard from left-wing activists to be more pro-Palestine. And the pressure is probably just as hard, if not harder, to be pro-Israel from the insiders and, the lobbyists and the people who run Washington. So, I would assume that she's just getting absolutely like harassed by both sides, and it's probably extremely stressful. I don't really care much about AOC, but like, that's my read on the situation. Is like, she doesn't like, both sides are just yelling at her. She probably wants to not even be in Congress anymore. She's like, that's not what I thought it was going to be. So I don't really know. But Bernie Sanders, AOC, I think Glenn Greenwald is right. His read is right, that they're the same version of like left-wing radical. They're not really radical. They're not like a real, they're not like a real socialist progressive even. They're just like sitting on the fence, like, oh yeah, socialism or whatever. But then also it's like they just play along with Nancy Pelosi. And it's like they are to Democrats what most Republicans are to the Republican Party. Like they talk a big game, they wear cowboy hats, but they don't do shit. That's kind of like AOC and all these other clowns, like, Bernie Sanders. So I just thought that was interesting. He's starting a podcast. I would assume it doesn't do very well. It's for whatever reason. I mean, I understand why, like everyone wants to do a podcast, but like Obama did a podcast and it didn't work. I don't see the Bernie Sanders podcast working. Some people can do it. Some people can't. I just don't see the Bernie podcast being like popular, but maybe I'm wrong. Last thing I want to talk about too, and then I'm going to read a few comments and then try to break this one off. I saw that Rob Smith he came out and he did some video and he said, you know, I'm no longer Republican. You know, you guys wanted me to leave the party and you succeeded. I'm independent again. And I talked about him a few months ago. And I want to say on a personal level, I've never met Rob Smith, but I've done like maybe like some sort of film thing. Like they wanted to do a pilot for Newsmax, and it was like a staff of like 5, or, you know, they had 5 people that they were talking about doing like a Fox 4, like, 4 younger people talking about politics. And me and Rob Smith were 2 people that they were like interested in. Never called me back. So I don't know what happened. Maybe they shelved it or went with someone else, even though I was awesome. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, Rob Smith was there. That's the only interaction I have with him. I have nothing really bad to say about him personally. Like, he's never been rude or mean to me. And, you know, I try to respect people on a personal basis outside of politics. So I have no problem with them personally. Politically, I just always thought his, you know, his angle was like fascinating, because before, and everybody changes, there's nothing wrong with it necessarily, but, you know, I saw Rob Smith used to be like a gay veteran CNN writer. Like, he used to write for CNN and write all these like left-wing pieces that were like, I'm a gay black veteran and I'm liberal. And, you know, he talked about like race issues or whatever. And then all of a sudden he was like, actually, I'm Republican now. I'm a gay black veteran who's Republican. And as soon as he came out with that, it's like, this guy got so many right-wing media opportunities, right? Like Fox News, like, this dude was a media darling. He's probably been on the news 100 times. He gets all these offers, all these speaking gigs. Like, the Republican Party really embraced him, and they were like, this is our guy. And to me, you know, just, I would say like taste wise, as far as like what I'm into, it never seemed really like interesting to me. It was just like, I'm gay, I'm black, I'm a veteran, and I like Trump. And he was doing the same thing he did when he worked for CNN, just for the right. Personally, it's not that I disliked him or anything. I just never really bought it. Like, it never like struck me as authentic or worth listening to. But apparently, like, conservative and Republican media absolutely swallowed it up, no pun intended. And then I guess there was some TPUSA event where like further right people were there or outside it or something. And I saw the video, and it was like, he started talking trash to these people, and then these people started talking trash back to him and called him names. And then he freaked out and said, look, they're calling me names, they're homophobic, they're racist. And it's one of these things where it's like, I don't agree with people being rude and calling people names, but it's like, if you walk and you start talking trash to somebody and they say something back, and then you're like, oh, they did this out of nowhere, it comes off very like, you know, people started calling him like Jussie Smollett and Bubba Wallace, saying he was like lying about it because he said they called him the N-word, but it wasn't on film. They did call him like FAGGOT. And I watched it, and it came after he had said talk shit and called them names. So it's like, he called them names, they called him names. Like, he called them like far right or Nazi or some stuff like, and then they called him that. And it was like, everybody kind of like turned on him because, you know, it just seemed like everyone saw the video, and it was like, we're not saying we justify what they're saying at all, but like, you kind of started it and said stuff and then cried the victim, and it did come off very liberally. And then once everybody said that, I guess he came out with a video now, and he's like, okay, you've successfully bullied me into not being a Republican anymore. Now I'm an independent. Now I, you know, and now he's like, you know, the right wing needs to condemn the far rightism on the right. And it's just funny to me because it's like, listen, I can't look into somebody's heart and tell who they really are, but I do have, I think, pretty good instinct. And with him, it's just like this is how dumb Republicans are. It's like, they'll hire somebody like that, giving them all these money and opportunities. And then, you know, when the going gets tough or whatever, they just completely are like, I don't want that in the party. And it's like, you know, it's too much white nationalism and this and that. And it's like, because you went to a bar and like started calling these people names, and they called you names. So now, like, I don't know. It's just like, to each their own. And I understand what the point he's trying to make, but I see a lot of this sort of stuff happening because, you know, people make interesting choices with who they choose to hire and who they choose to work with. Like, they like a gimmick, like they like someone that's like, I'm gay, I'm black, I'm a veteran, and I'm left wing or right wing, or I'm this, I'm that. And it's like, you know, I'm like, now, like, after 4 years of them funneling so many opportunities to this guy, he just switches it up. And I'm not saying you can't criticize the Republican Party. I guess I just don't like the angle of like, I want to talk about issues and topics in the country, and I don't want them to use words or you to like, I just want to get to the point. And when you start just using these labels like far right, this, that, like, there's too much of this, that, like, you're not talking about policy or points. You're basically just saying like, words are offending me, and this is the label of who they are, but I can't even debate why. And I'm not really into that stuff, whether it's left wing or right wing. It's like, let's get to the meat of the conversation, not just call each other names like little kids and then say we're offended. So I see a lot of stuff happening like that. And, last thing I'll say is like Don Lemon and Elon Musk almost did a deal. It fell apart and now everybody's dunking on Don Lemon. To each their own, because we all need to talk about something. But I just don't feel like giving Don Lemon any attention. To me, Don Lemon has no career. Ignore him. Chris Cuomo should have never been hired, in my opinion. Obviously, I have like a slight personal bias about it too. But like outside, like even if I never talked to PBD podcast or anything, God bless them. Like if they hired Chris Cuomo, there's not a world where I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I never would have thought that, even if I never talked to them, because Chris Cuomo, he's not Jimmy Dore. He's not, he's not Glenn Greenwald. Like I'm fine with Glenn Greenwald getting a Rumble contract. Glenn Greenwald is a good liberal progressive. He's an honest guy. I don't believe everything he does or says. I don't think he's a perfect man or by any means, but it's like, I respect him getting a Rumble contract because he does good journalism. Chris Cuomo does not. Don Lemon did not. These people are the type of people that will sell or say or do anything they can. And there's a lot of that in media. I've been talking about it the last 2 weeks. Like, I'm not looking into people's souls to tell you who they are, but it's like, do people not realize that opportunists exist that will be left wing or right wing if the money's there and they can't explain themselves really? So it's like just watching everyone react to Don Lemon. I'm like, you're giving him attention. Chris Cuomo, you just saved his career and gave him money, and this guy is garbage. And there's no reason to ever listen to a minute of Chris Cuomo on PBD podcast because it's not real opinions. It's not real opposition. It's not real left to right. It's all designed to rot your brain, lower your IQ, and make you believe you're having a reasonable discussion when you're listening to two people talk about in circles about like corporate basic angles. And I feel that way about the Dylan Mulvaney, like trans person or whatever. Apparently they dropped a new music video, and the only reason I know about it and have seen it is because 50 Republicans put it in my feed. It's like, dude, the Republicans are like the gayest promoters ever. They've promoted Dylan Mulvaney more than liberals would. If Republicans never post all his videos, I'd never know anything about that person, but they're posting his new music video and they're like, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. And it's like, stop putting it in my face. Like, I don't care about it. It's just so funny. I get that everybody has to react and talk about something, but it's like, can you like talk about it without promoting it a lot, like, and like pushing the physical video in people's faces all the time? Like, I don't see the strategy really, but that's what people choose to do. I just find it funny where I'm like, I don't think they realize how much they're promoting these people, or maybe they do. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna hang out for a little bit, read a few comments, but then I'm gonna drop off. Appreciate you guys. Someone said Bud Light tastes awful. Yeah, I mean, those type of cheap beers, it's just like it tastes okay for the first sip or two, and then it tastes like really watery and shitty, but that's my opinion. Raza, Ideal Tennessee said, thanks for all you do, Anomaly. You rule, bro. I come here for the news, but I always stay for the great vibes. Peace and love to all who read this. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Someone said Jimmy Dore is actually based. I don't agree with everything he says or does, but I do. Out of all the left wingers, I like him. Let me give you another example, because now you're seeing this guy Destiny show up everywhere, right? He's always been the liberal who would debate conservatives. That's how he got famous. He'd go on all the Republican shows and debate them. I guess I just have this internal intuition. If somebody's not talented or interesting or good, I ignore them completely. So with Destiny, it's like, I've ignored him for 5 years. It's not that I'm afraid to debate him. I would if it made sense, but it's like, I'm just not impressed. And it's like, if something crosses my radar a bunch and I'm just like, why? Like, who is this guy? Like, why should I listen to this guy? There's so much stuff to listen to. I don't like to listen to things I don't like personally. So it's like, I'll watch a debate if it intrigues me, but am I a liberal now, Anomaly? No. Why? Like, why do you think that? I posted Trump said, wasn't your life better 4 years ago? And 4 years ago was 15 days to slow the spread. I literally just posted that on Twitter, and people will say, you have Trump derangement syndrome. It's like, because I posted that 4 years ago that happened. I didn't even give my opinion on it. It's just like, it is what it is. But like, people, they're so addicted to like political teams and stuff that everything like, oh, you must be liberal if you said this, or, oh, you must, it's like, what part of anything I've said in the last 2 years gave you that impression? I guess it's just like me not being like everyone else, because I don't want to be like them. That's the whole reason I got into this. And, I like talent. I like talented musicians, talented podcasts, talented fighters, and talented, I would say entertainers, talented athletes. I love greatness. I'm inspired by greatness. And when I watch other good people, I like to try to elevate it or at least like recognize how good it is. But when things are not impressive to me, I just like, I'm not impressed. I'm not going to pretend like I am. And there's a lot of artificial talent out there, not talent. Like, I mean, just look at the music industry. No offense to this chick, because I don't really follow her music, but I think her name is like Sexy Red. God bless her soul. She's at like one of these huge festivals, right? And she's like singing, and it just sounds terrible. And it's just like, it's like, who are these people? Like, who makes them famous? Like, I don't know, but I'm not impressed. And I just, I wish I could pretend like I was, but I just can't, because I'm like, and that's a lot of people in right wing or left wing media too. It's just like, these people are not impressive. Like, say like Chris Cuomo, like, I don't think he's funny or interesting, or I think the best asset he has is that he's like Italian. And I'm not saying like every Italian is awesome, but he just like he works out. A lot of people in media, they don't like, they're not strong. Like, he looks like he could be an athlete, Chris Cuomo. I think like that's the vibe that people like about him. But if you compare his personality, his humor, his takes, like, Cuomo's not like a top in any of those fields. He just looks like that's why like Tucker used to make fun of him, call him like a bodybuilder all the time. And like, it's like, it's like, what is there? Like, if I see like, I'll see like Candace or someone where you're like, okay, I see what they do good, or Tucker Carlson, you're like, I see what he does well. Some of these other people, I'm like, I don't see anything they're doing that's like extraordinary. So it's not worth my time, personally, but to each their own. Why don't I marry him? No, I'm just trying to say, like, I'm trying to be objective. It's like, it's not his like humor. It's not his common sense. It's not he's not like well spoken really. Like, what separates him from the rest of people in news? Like, what is there anything he does that's impressive? And I'm like, it's like with RFK. I'm not trying to be weird. I'm just saying, like, the fact that RFK works out and isn't like fat or like super skinny, it's impressive. You're like, oh, that guy's jacked and he like takes care of himself. It's not coming from, I'm not trying to be weird with it. I'm just saying, like, I'd rather a politician look like RFK than look like what's his name? Ralph Nader, or what's his name? Ralph Nadler, Jerry Nadler. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, that's like what separates Chris Cuomo, that the fact that he like exercises, like everything else, there's nothing really. Like, RFK has a lot of impressive things about him. It's Cuomo, not so much in my view. But Don Lemon, I don't think there's really anything impressive about Don Lemon either. Like, I just like Tucker. I don't agree with everything, but I do think he's good at monologues. He's pretty funny, and he's good on podcasts. He comes off very authentic. Cuomo and Don Lemon suck. Like, these people are not. Even Bill Maher, I've complimented. I don't believe Bill Maher. I don't trust Bill Maher. I just did a live stream, but he's funny. He's interesting. There's somewhat value there. Like, I just don't like. I don't see it. Like, Jimmy Dore, there's some value. Glenn Greenwald, some value. Cuomo and Lemon, I don't see it. Same with like Tim Pool. I think the value is in his guests. Like, I don't think his staff is impressive, and I don't think he's impressive or likable or funny or interesting or nice. So I'm like, but he does run a good business. That's just my personal preference. As far as like, I don't really want to listen to that. Let me read a few. Someone said, do you still have your border journalist contact? I have an interesting spin on how America is causing a humanitarian crisis for illegal crossings at the border. Yeah, I definitely know people who like work at the border. So Jorge Ventura is the obvious one. He's been on the show a few times. Definitely always good to have him on and just get like a rehash of like what's going down at the border, because he knows. Bill Malugan's a good one to follow on Twitter if you're interested in border stuff. Bill Malugan, Jorge Ventura, these are the top dogs for sure. Someone said Cuomo over Lemon. I don't know. I guess. Yeah, if I had to choose, I guess maybe. I didn't listen to the Don Lemon stuff really, because it's just like I don't like it. It's kind of like the energy with Tim. Personally, I don't mind a good grilling interview if it's like fair, but I hate like when like people frame stuff so crazy like immediately. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a tough question. It's like everything's just being framed in this weird way and like aggressively, like they're like, I just, like the way Don Lemon talks, I'm just not a fan. The way Tim talks, I don't like. It's just not for me. And I'd rather ignore these people now because it's like they don't really have a job. They're trying to get into podcasting. But the whole reason podcasts blew up and YouTube blew up was because they sucked at their job. They lied. They took the corporate money. Like no one should be letting these people in. If they can win on their own, that's fine. But like they're not, like Chris Cuomo is not in the top 5% of podcasters or news analysts. He just has the corporate political backing of a political family and corporate, connections because he worked there for so long. But it's like, these people are starting to fail. These news organizations are starting to fail. All these journalists, fake journalists, like I don't see why Republicans would try to keep these people afloat. I don't understand it, but to each their own. It's not up to me. I run my business, other people run theirs. But I don't like the idea of like, oh, let's keep these guys afloat. Yeah, let them on X, let them like post their own stuff. But I don't think hiring Don Lemon. What is Blaze TV going to hire Don Lemon now? And maybe TPUSA will hire like Brian Stelter. Like, it's embarrassing in my view, but whatever. What do I think about G. Edward Griffin? I can't say enough good things about the guy. I love G. Edward Griffin. Great guest, interesting guy, good thinker, very well researched. Can't say enough good things about G. Edward. When am I releasing another Wax song? When you put it that way. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I'm super busy with like 100 things. In a perfect world, I would love to make more music all the time, but we don't live in a perfect world. So, I got other things to do. Other business to do. But yeah, I would love to not have to do a lot of things and make music. But why didn't I ever get on Tim's show? You guys really want to hear that? I've told it too many times. I'm sure people are bored of it, but I was booked on his show. They flew me out. I had an hour to 2 hour delay at the airport. I landed an hour before the show started, and they told me that it was too late and they couldn't let me go, even though we could have got there on time. So, and then they started just talking to me like I was a piece of garbage and being like, oh, it's too late, like whatever. And then like later they were like, we've never had this problem happen before. We always fly people in earlier the day before. And it's not like I needed to fly in that day. I could have flew in a day before or anything. I had a flexible schedule. So it's like they booked my flight and they booked the podcast and the flight time like very near. So there was a very minor delay. It's not like I was sitting for 5 hours at the airport. I landed an hour before the podcast started, and they told me that we don't want to cut it close. Like basically like, fuck you. And then they told me that this has never happened once because they always give the person more time. So in my view, they purposely sabotaged me because, like it was some sort of like weird humiliation ritual or something. Cause none of it was adding up. Like they didn't pay for the hotel. I had to book a new one because I couldn't stay at the hotel they booked for me because it was an hour away and they wouldn't let me go on the podcast. It was all weird. The staff treated me like shit. Tim never answered me and never hit me up. Like, dude, I despise that guy. Like not just as a podcaster, just as a human being. I think he's a terrible person, but good luck yelling at everybody and covering up things. I don't like whatever. So at this point, I just don't trust him or his staff enough to ever fly out there again. I've talked to Cassandra who books for him, and she mentioned that he'd have me on the show again. But it's like once, it's like staying at a hotel where there's like bed bugs and they treat you like shit and the maid's like stealing your shit. It's not like you're going to like, oh, I want to go back to that hotel again. So like, that's how I view Tim. I view him like a scum lord who like has bed bugs and, you know what I'm saying, steals your money. And then he's like, hey, do you want to come back to my hotel? And you're like, no, dude, I don't trust you. I would debate Tim, but it has to be at neutral ground because I can't possibly trust the guy or respect him less. Cassandra's awesome. Cassandra Fairbanks is good people. But Tim, like that whole experience, just, it's like, I'm not interested in like fame or attention from him. Like I'd rather not go there, like I'd rather not go through that again. Yeah. How could he not let you stay at his house? I didn't want to stay at his house, but I'm just saying once I landed, they were just like, oh, we don't want to cut it too close. But I guarantee if it was like Jack Posobiec or James O'Keefe or somebody that he was friends with, of course he would have let them come to the show. I could have been there on time. He just bamboozled me like super hard. I know why though. It's because like I truly believe, I don't believe in coincidences all the time, but the way he talked to Liam Cosgrove and the way he talks to everybody, he's not going to talk to me that way. Like, I'm not going to allow him to talk to me that way. We can debate, he can disagree, but when I disagree with Tim Pool, do you think I would sit there and be like, no, shut up. Like, that's how he talks to people. And it's like, R.A. the Rugged Man almost got up and beat his ass, because it's like, bro, like, we could have a debate, we could have a discussion, we could disagree on things, but like he talks like he's like a slave master demon, and just talks shit. Like, everybody, like, nobody likes him. Everybody despises him, because he's just such a nasty, angry, like, demon, so it's like, I don't mind him debating or saying, no, I disagree, but like the vibe of how he treats people, he wouldn't have been able to treat me like that. So I almost feel like energetically he knew I was going to clown him, make his audience like me more, and make him look like a dickhead. So I feel like they purposely sabotaged my thing and just kind of like left me stranded. But maybe not. Jay Case with the super chat said, I'd love to see you and Matt Christensen work with Andrew and Frank, the Fierce Foursome. Not sure who those are. I'd still pay for you to decimate David Pakman, the dead-eyed guy. Thank you for your work. Yeah, I like David Pakman, dude. Just staring into his eyes, you just see like emptiness and death. So yeah, I'm not at this point in my life. I'm down to debate. I'm down to have a conversation. But I guess like I don't view things the same way I did it a couple years ago, where it's like I don't have to do anything, and I don't see the value in it. Where it's like, if I look into like, David Pakman's eyes and I just see like soulless death, I'm just not interested in conversing with him, because it's just like there's something really dark going on there, that I'm not really interested in. But good luck to him. Have I ever done an interview with Jeremy McKenzie? No. Someone said Tim Pool is 100% the boss you need. Oh, the boss everyone hates, you said. Yeah, for sure. Well, because at the end of the day, I think like, obviously, like, I'm not trying to compare Tim to Michael Jordan, because that's just disgraceful. But like, say like Michael Jordan, not all the teammates liked Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan was pushing people to win. So it's like there is an element of like certain bosses. Everyone's not going to love a great boss, because what it takes to get to certain places, it's not always easy and it's not always fun. So I do understand that dynamic, but at the end of the day, I do believe in like how you treat people. I not everyone believes this way, but I do believe in the law of attraction, and just basically like how you treat others, like what comes around goes around. So if you make mistakes and have bad interactions with certain people, or you're harsh as a boss sometimes, I don't think like things are going to be that bad. But like if you constantly treat everybody like they're slaves and pieces of shit, then yeah, everyone's going to hate you. So like if you watch the way I interact with G. Edward Griffin, or Renato Moicano, and all these people, like I'm a very like, especially when people are honest and well-meaning, like you see the type of host I am. The only person I've ever really grilled harshly, I would say it was like Vivek, but I had like 15 minutes to go like an hour, and I just had to get to the point. If I would have had 3 hours with Vivek or 2 hours, I could have had a whole different energy to that podcast. And I would have rather had that energy, because I don't like to be like on a quick time constraint when I have a few questions to ask, because I don't want to come across as rude. I want to be like, but I just like had to rush. But most of the time, like that's just what I've noticed about Tim. It's just he talks so like if someone says something intelligent, he just like yells over them and says no, and then like starts calling them names and saying they're deranged. And it's like the Liam Cosgrove guy, he's not deranged. He's like an intelligent journalist who like knows what he's talking about. You don't have to agree with him, but like he's not like insane. He's just like saying things that Tim doesn't want said on his show, because Tim won't cover that stuff. He covers it up, or refuses to act like it makes any sense. So it's like I don't vibe with that that type of like how treating people that way. It's not I don't think it's like sustainable, but who knows. I'm responsible for my life, and I that's what I'm focused on. Someone said, remember how he flipped out over Liza Blue? That whole thing went right over my head, because like once again, nothing bad to say about the girl, but my intuition, I'm just like, I'm always ahead of these people. Like where it's like with her, like just because someone tweets something and everyone believes it, like I don't necessarily believe it. So that whole thing, I just never believed it anyway. I'm not saying she lied about everything, but like, everyone's like, she's a whistleblower, she's this, she's that. And it's like, maybe, but like my intuition's telling me I'm not buying it. So I just stayed out of that completely. So it's like he had her on, then some scandal happened, and then everyone's telling him she's wrong, and Tim doesn't want to question it. He flips out, he starts yelling, like, like I that all went right over my head, because when I started seeing that come up, like I do this, I'm fighting this, and I just never believed it, like I don't just believe people just because they say stuff like, oh, look, that person said this on Twitter, they're an expert. It's like, that's not how I see things. So, but I'm not going to just like tweet and say stuff about people. I'll just let it play out. Like, let's see, maybe she really knows what she's talking about. Maybe not. Maybe, time will tell. So that, like, there's certain people that have come, like Destiny's come up on my radar. I never talk about him because I just never believed him, and I never thought that he was an impressive opposition. Like, out of the left wingers, Jimmy Dore is impressive. Glenn Greenwald is impressive. Bill Maher is funny and he's impressive in some ways, but I don't fully trust him. But he has talent, in my opinion. A lot of these other goblins and characters and ghouls and like whoever they are, like influencers turned experts, I'm like, I don't see it, like if I don't see it, then I just kind of move on, because I don't have to give my energy. Like I'm not one of these people. Like sometimes people come in the comments and they're like upset the whole time. I don't watch things that upset me. I don't pay attention that much to like social media stuff. My feed is stuff that I want to see. Sometimes it's not, but like my Instagram feed, it's all soccer clips, it's all MMA clips, it's all funny videos. Like I don't spend time like feeling bad about things I hate. I just kind of, I zone in on things that give me joy, because why, what else? What am I going to do? Sit around and watch people I hate all the time? I don't see the value. Should interview Tulsi Gabbard and Lara Trump? I'd like to. I'd rather interview Tulsi than Lara. I have nothing. Lara seems like a nice lady. She's now the new RNC chair, so that would be a good interview. She has a powerful position. She hired Scott Presler, I think, to do something, who's the only person who's done anything in the past 5 years anyway. So I'm not really mad at that, but it'll be interesting. We'll see. Someone said Anthony Brian Logan is a great source of conservative news. I see his tweets sometimes. His tweets seem on point. I'm definitely familiar with him as a person. I haven't seen that much of his content, but from the tweets, I've seen some stuff. I'll have to check it out. I guess like with politics, it's not that I think I know everything, but it's like I spent so much time with politics that I try to limit what I intake with politics, because it's like, that's what I was saying about certain things. Like I was kind of being a dick when I was talking about the PBD podcast, but I'm also being really honest. It's like, when I listen to that staff talk about Trump, none of them are saying anything new or impressive. They're, in my opinion, they're just saying less intelligent things than I say in a way that makes less sense. And then you bring on someone like Chris Cuomo or someone like that, and it's like, now there's an opposition that's faker than left wingers I would listen to, and the right wing opposition to that is dumber than anything I'm saying. So there's no value in me watching these podcasts, because there's nothing there that is interesting or intriguing, or I guess I do like the motivation and the business stuff, but besides that, like I don't have time to watch people dumber and faker than me. Like they gotta have something that they're like inspiring, or maybe like I like comedians or something funny. But if you're not funny, you're not interesting, you're not honest, and you're like you're rehashing things that I talk about in a dumber way, then it's like, what's the point of watching it? I'm like kind of tapped out of politics, where I get what's going on, and unless somebody can convince me otherwise or show me new information, then I don't see the value of like just running in circles around like headlines all the time. David Icke, I follow him on Twitter. He pops up in the feed sometimes. I've seen his videos. I haven't watched in a while, but like he has an interesting angle. I don't agree with everything, but I do. He's someone that challenges my views in interesting ways. So I definitely would rather listen to him than most Republicans. Someone say I wouldn't say he's dumb. I'm not saying he's dumb. I'm just saying the level of conservative discussion. Like, I've been in the game since 2016, right? A lot of these people that are weighing in on Trump, they just started talking about politics 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not saying that PBD's dumb. He's definitely not dumb. He's nice. He's smart. He's intelligent. He's a good businessman. I'm just saying the level of discussion between him and his co-host about conservative issues, in my view, is not a high level discussion. I don't find it incredibly intriguing or thought provoking. To me, it sounds like somebody that like is rehashing 2019 pro-Trump talking points and kind of like 5 steps behind me. That's just how I feel. It's like, wow, the media said this about Trump. Alvin Bragg said, like, that's the level of conversation they're having. They're not having, in my view, intelligent angles on it. I'm not saying they're dumb, but I just think their level of political discussion is not for me. I think it's more for like low level, like, just like, we're gonna beat Biden. Like, it's like that sort of stuff, like, well, but Trump's gonna beat Biden. It's like there's a huge market for that. It's just not, I'm just not in it. That's not my, I'm not. It's like, yeah. Tim Dillon, yeah, he's funny for sure. Someone said, I've been watching this crap show since Reagan. And that's the thing, you as a, I don't know who you are, but like you as a consumer, like you've been paying attention to politics since Ronald Reagan, right? I appreciate that you're here because that means you respect me enough to listen to me or whatever, or interested. You're probably, if you've known it's been nonsense since Reagan, you're probably not interested in every Republican news host who just started making news videos 3 years ago that are like 5 steps behind you, right? Like, if you've known the system was fake since Reagan, or you've seen through it since Reagan, you're not going to be impressed by every person that shows up that's half your age that just starts talking about politics if they're not honest to you, or they're not like, they're not inspiring you. That's just how I feel about a lot of like news analysis. Like, like, let me give you an example with Ted Cruz. A bunch of people have interviewed Ted Cruz. Not a single person has asked him good questions. Here's the questions you should be asking Ted Cruz. If I ever got a Ted Cruz interview, I'll try. It's going to be like the most eye-opening thing, because like, all right, Ted Cruz, when he was a couple years ago, he put out a resolution saying that he wanted to take masks off of only the vaccinated. So Ted Cruz, even though he's a Republican in Texas, he was fine with mask and vaccine segregation. And he thought that because he got a vaccine, he deserved special privileges over people who didn't get the vaccine. Not a single Republican influencer has asked him a question about it. In fact, Today with Julius yelled it at him. He's the only one who tried to get him on the street in a quick question. And Today with Julius follows me. I mean, he's a hard worker and a good guy. I know him. I've met him. He probably had listened to my show and like went and asked him a question. Thank God. I mean, I'm glad he did. But it's like, he's basically on no budget running around doing the work of 1,000 journalists who have way more money and power than me and Julius do. Yet they get all these interviews and they don't ask it. The only person who's asked Ted Cruz that is an independent journalist who busts his ass, who had to like run and try to get it real quick. Meanwhile, all these fake alternative media shills, they have hour sits downs with Ted Cruz and they don't even ask the question. Ask him why he was okay with vaccine segregation. Ask him why he wants to sodomize Uganda and make it gayer. Why should Texans be concerned about how gay an African country is? Because how does that affect Texas? If you can't even fix Austin, Texas, how in the world can you fix a foreign country? Like, these are questions that break the left-right paradigm, but that's not what happens. It's just like people smoking cigars with Ted Cruz. Whether you want Uganda to be gay or not, I just don't see how a Texas politician that can't even save his own state, like how he has the power or authority or vision to fix that country. Like, it doesn't make any sense. No one ever asks them the hard questions. And that's what I'm trying to say is, like, when I watch these other podcasts, I know it comes off kind of rude, but this is just my personal view. It's like, I'm just not impressed by like what most people are saying. Candace Owens has impressed me over the last month or two. Tucker Carlson, I don't agree with everything he says or does, but he has an impressive format. Interviewing Putin was like a historical event. That's beyond impressive, even if he does nothing for the rest of the year. There are people out there that are doing things that are interesting, but most of these people, I'm just not interested. Someone said Cruz is married to Morgan Stanley. I don't know much about that, but I've heard people say his wife or something. I'm not really sure, so I don't want to speak on it. But someone said Ryan Garcia says Elon Musk is the Antichrist. I mean, he could be, but I would say I don't believe Ryan Garcia's like stunts right now. It's not that what he's saying is so wrong, but looking at his eye contact and the way he's like moving and stuff, like he's either putting on a show to sell more tickets or he's having like a mental breakdown. And I'm not saying everyone who talks about these topics has a mental breakdown, but I'm personally, like, my intuition, I'm not buying Ryan Garcia's stuff right now. I think he's either trying to sell tickets, which would be insanely messed up if you're doing this stuff just to sell tickets, or he's just like freaking out because he's not coming across as somebody who really knows stuff and is trying to like blow the whistle. He's coming across like a manic psychopath who's like lying and doing drugs or something. But that's just my opinion. God bless him though. I don't buy that. And my prediction is I don't see there's a way that this fight happens unless he's making this stuff up and just trying to play into trutherism to get people to watch his fight. I don't think he's even going to fight. Like he's going to lose that fight in my view. I hope he doesn't. He's a nice guy, but like I don't think the fight even goes off. I think he's going to drop out personally. But hopefully not. But the way he's moving and stuff, I don't think he's going to be able to fight. He's like a 10-1 underdog too. So it's a hard fight, even if you're in the right mental space. If you're not in the right mental space, then it's going to be even harder. Someone said he's probably going through a humiliation ritual. Anything's possible. I mean, I don't really want to speculate too much, but my personal thoughts are I don't believe him. I'm not looking at him like he's blowing the whistle on the industry. I think he's having like a breakdown, but I wish him well. Anomaly, you should look into the World Economic Forum prophet who wants AI. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me. I mean, AI is already here. It's just like what type of AI? Because artificial intelligence is already in every aspect of everything. It's in cars. It's on the internet. AI is here. It's just like how far is it going to go? Who's going to get it? How are they going to use it? It's here. It's just like, what's next? Thank you, Wayne the Pain from Northern California. Appreciate you. Someone said, I think we're going to have a biological attack. I saw Candace tweet something that I kind of agree with. She said, she thinks that they're leaving the border open purposely to use an attack in America as justification to push more foreign war, which I agree. I've seen other Republicans say, oh, the border's open and there's going to be an attack, and it's going to be Hamas or whatever. And it's going to be these people. And I sort of agree with that also, but I think that's just half the story. I more agree with what Candace is saying. I think that, anytime there's an attack, there's justification to push war further. So if certain countries around the world are not getting the support that they want from the world, I don't think it's out of the realm to for there to be an attack in America. I'm not saying it's staged or anything. I'm just saying, the border security is very weak, just like, people have talked about in other countries as well. But it's like, if there's an attack in America, our foreign allies are going to point to those attacks and say, oh my gosh, see, now it's happening to you. And all the politicians, Trump, Biden, all of them, they're going to jump up like robots and they're all going to say, yep, now we got to push harder. Now we got to fund more. Now we got to fight more. Now we got to wipe these people out. I believe that's going to happen. I believe that there's a large chance of that happening, because it's like with the bump stock ban, or it's like the bump stock ban doesn't work, but after a tragedy, it does work. Lockdowns don't work. After a tragedy, it works. You can't just print $7 trillion in 1 year, but if there's a tragedy, you can't just funnel that money to big pharma through socialism. But if there's a lockdown, you can. And I'm not saying these things are staged, but it's crazy to think that politicians don't know this now. Of course they know this. If they can't get the money, if they can't get the war, if they can't get the power, if they can't get the agenda, then a tragedy will allow them to get it. And all the politicians will play along. And that's where I wonder how much it even matters if Trump wins or not. In some cases, I do hope he wins because I think it matters. But if that's happening, it's like, say Trump's doing really good, right? And then a tragedy happens, and all of a sudden now he does what they want him to do. And then all his supporters say, oh, he just got tricked. You see what I'm saying? That's when it turns into Tom and Jerry. And that's when it doesn't matter. I still hope he wins for federal judges and stuff. Just logically, I think it's better than Ketanji Jackson Brown. But it's like, everyone thinks that Trump's getting tricked or fooled, where I just think it's more like a command. It's like, okay, now you're doing this. Now everything's going to change and you're going to do it. And he goes, okay, I don't see it as this huge like fight, but we never know. You never know. Someone said Tom and Jerry. Yeah, that's one of my favorite analogies that I always use, because it's like that everybody thinks like they're trying to catch each other. Like, oh, the cat's trying to catch the mouse. But if the cat ever caught the mouse, the game ends. You understand? Like, they can't end the game. It's like a lot of racial activists in different communities. The second that the persecution stops is the second that they don't have a job. So you're like, do they want to fix hatred and racism, or do they want a constant flow? Because the more racism there is, the more money and power and control they get. It's like that. I call it Tom and Jerry. I don't believe that Republicans are really even chasing Democrats, and I don't believe Democrats are really chasing Republicans. I do think they are like persecuting citizens. Like if you're a Republican citizen, yes. Politician, I'm not really sure. Maybe, but I'm not sure that I buy like the little games that they're playing. Someone said Thomas Massey and Jerry Nadler. Bro, that is genius, dude. $500 fine. That's genius level. He said Tom is Thomas Massey and Jerry is Jerry Nadler. That's so funny. I think Tom's the cat though. You'd want to reverse it, have Jerry Nadler chasing Tom, but still, that's outstanding, dude. Congratulations. I love that. Now I'm just someone should Photoshop Thomas Massey's face on one and then Jerry Nadler. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Anyway, that's a top tier comment. People are always like, why do you read the comments? It's like, because sometimes you get a gem like that, other times not so much. But yeah, they're not all winners though. Would be reversed, but still funny. It's still really funny. Yeah, you can't be too picky. Thank you, Marilyn. I appreciate it. I'm gonna try to keep this under an hour 45. So let's enjoy the next 15 minutes. You're welcome. $500 fine. What is that? What does your name mean, by the way? What's the fine for? What are we talking about here? You don't have to tell me, but I'm just curious. That's my favorite part of the show, you engaging with the audience. I appreciate it. I have one friend that I met one time at an airport, and like, good guy, and like we became friends. Like sometimes people will tell me like, yo, don't argue with audience members. Don't talk to people. And then he'll send me little clips of myself that like, I'm just like arguing with somebody in the comments. And he's like, bro, that's the funniest thing you do. Keep doing that. So, when my friends like it, it makes me want to do it more. I was like, okay, because some people don't like that, but I guess it just depends how you look at it. Anomaly and David Knight would make a good interview. Yeah, I'll talk to David Knight soon. I know we follow each other, so I'll make that happen. I guess here's where I'm at this year. Is like I don't know. I guess like I'm trying to figure out what I like to do. Like I'm enjoying myself today. I think the show went really well. I think I was on the ball. I didn't like mess up as much as I've been recently. So, today was a good show. Yeah, I don't like, as far as like talking to other people, like if David Knight reached out to me, I'd definitely accept the invitation, but we'll see. Soon I'll be fine for speaking. I figure it's around $500. Okay, I got you. Only Anomaly mixes it up with this audience. It's before I ever did news analysis, like you could go look on YouTube if you search for it. You could find all my old rap. I grew up freestyling. Like I've been freestyling since high school. Like one day in high school, I did a battle with some kid, and like everybody crowded around, and it was like a freestyle battle, and I won, and the kid was like crying or something. I don't know. I like ruined his career. But I've been freestyling my whole life. So I think about like, comments are kind of like freestyling. Like I don't have a script. I don't have any videos or anything that I thought to say. I'm just kind of like, it's good mental exercise to be able to like read and, discuss and debate like with the comments. I think it's a good like mental activity. So it reminds me of just freestyle rapping where you just got to make it up as you go and be funny and impressive. So please make Vivek cry in a rap battle. Well, Vivek can't really rap battle or freestyle. He just like karaoke's Eminem. There's nothing wrong with that. Listen, I like karaoke. So like the fact that Vivek does karaoke, I'm not mad at him. Like karaoke is relatable. I like doing karaoke too. Even though I do shows sometimes, like I still like doing karaoke. I think it's funny. So I'm not gonna shit on the guy for doing a karaoke Eminem thing. It's it's like he's confident. He's having a fun time. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. that's his song. He likes to sing it. I get why. It's like, it's funny. You see Vivek rapping like Eminem. He's like, my knees are sweaty, arms, mom spaghetti. You're like, it's kind of funny. Do I have plans on talking to Tim Pool since the last situation fell through? I would talk to him, but I'm not going there. So if there were a neutral setting where me and Beanie Boy could have a conversation, then I would be down, but I'm not interested in going to the Beanie Bunker. So I would enjoy the dynamic of me and Tim, because I'm not looking for someone to agree with me, but the way he talks to people is outlandish. And he couldn't do that to me. So I do kind of want to talk to him, because I want to know how it would go. Like, he's not going to yell at me and tell me I'm deranged. Like, I'll be like, what do you think about these speech laws in America? Like, do you like the First Amendment? And he's like, oh, you're deranged. You're an idiot. You're crazy. And like, I'd be like, Tim, don't talk to me that way. You know, I'd be like, calm down, bro. Like, you're being like you're being like it's like when you have like a dog or something, and like the dog's just like barking and biting and like humping your leg, and you're like looking at the dog owner, and you're like, yo, can you control your dog, please? Like, your dog, like that's the vibe. He's like he's like a chihuahua that just, you know what I'm saying? Like, just like yelling at his, it's like, it's not like this confident discussion. It's like this angry animal just like biting your leg or something. So I wouldn't like that. I would be interested to see how our discussion went, because I would be like, stop talking to me that way. It's weird. You know, like, you're very douchey. It would be fun, but yeah, not at the Beanie Bunker. It would have to be in a neutral setting that I felt comfortable going to, because I don't like, after seeing how he still owes me money. Like, Tim owes me money. Like, if I ever go on the show, I'll be like, you owe me money, Tim. Like, or your company owes me money, but it's fine. I don't need it. It's, you know, that's just the type of guy he is, I guess. Someone said Tim Stool would do it and be R.A. Rugged number 2. Well, yeah, I wouldn't fight. I wouldn't like try to fight Tim or anything. That's kind of douchey. I would just like sun him sitting down. I'd be like, stop. Like, you know, I would be like, you know, I love the way that the Liam Cosgrove guy, he handled it. Class act. I think that guy seems like a stand-up guy. I've never seen him before, never heard of him, but hearing that 10 minutes, I was like, that guy seems like, I like how he handled himself. I'm just a different person. So like, if Tim did that to me, I would handle it differently. I would not stand up and yell at Tim by any means, but I would literally tell Tim, not only are you wrong about this topic and really just trying to cover it up with like false examples, but you speak down. Like, I would literally just say this to his face. I'd be like, you do this to all your guests who are smarter and more honest than you. You speak down to them and yell at them and like bite at them like an angry chihuahua. And it's like, that whole energy of you doing that is so douchey and condescending and fake. And it's like, you're not even right. So like, not only are you wrong about this, which I can discuss, but your whole like attack dog energy is so disgusting. Like, I would love to just say that to his face, because I've always thought that. Even before I got booked, I never like hated on Tim Pool, but the one thing I always noticed was how he did that. And I was kind of excited to go, because I was like, he's not going to do that to me. Or if he does it to me, I'm going to tell him to stop doing it. And I'm going to like, his whole audience, like even the comments, they always say that. It's not like his audience like loves him. They know he's like that, you know? So it would have been interesting. I really would have enjoyed it, but never happened. He projects a lot. Yeah, but it's just like it's just very, it's what the mainstream media does, honestly. It's like, if you say you were like, say you just go on the media and you're like, listen, I understand that some conservatives are crazy, right? But there's a lot of good conservative people in America, and I don't think you guys represent that. And they go, oh, well, what about, you know, white supremacists? And they like yell at you, and you're like, they just try to like reframe the whole narrative and energy and just make it like crazy and chaotic and make you seem like you're so crazy and they're so much smarter and better than you. And it's just like so gross. You're like, you guys are so sneaky, you know, like, like that's what Tim does. Like, you're deranged, you're crazy, you're out of your control. Oh, Israel. Oh yeah. What about Germany? Oh, what about Afghanistan, Yemen? And it's like, dude, chill out. Like, what? It would be like if I was like, yo, San Francisco's going to shit, because it is. And it's like, oh, what about Minneapolis? What about Maine? What about Vermont? You think it's all perfect? Like, no, I never did. I say that? Like, that's like the tactics he's using. You know what I'm saying? It's just like immediate, like, oh, you're saying like Yemen? Yemen doesn't do that. Yemen, like, we could talk about Yemen if you want to talk about Yemen, but that's just not what I was talking about. Like, I'm not saying that, but you're saying that I'm saying that, like, or you're like, does he not know why people might talk about Israel more than Yemen and Afghanistan? It's the same reason Tim talks about Ukraine more than Poland and Czech Republic. It's because like Czech Republic and Poland, they're not in a war right now. They don't take hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money. And it's totally okay to talk about Ukraine more than Czech Republic. Like, like if you started talking about Ukraine and I just said you have Ukrainian derangement syndrome and why don't you talk about Czech Republic? I would look like I'm a stone cold liar or like a cover up artist, like it's so obviously like childish, elementary, and just fake, where the fact that anyone doesn't see it is mind boggling to me. And I honestly, I didn't even look at the comments on the YouTube video because I don't care. But people are saying everyone notices now. How could you not notice? It's like it's all these things that I said for years. Like now everyone started, like people are like, oh, you were right about that. And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm right about everything, but I didn't say it to be wrong. It's not like I said it 2 years ago because I thought I was wrong. If I say it, I think it's right. That's why I'm saying it. So yeah, I'm not surprised that people are starting to realize it. It's just like, it's why I said it in the first place. I didn't say it for to be like confrontational. I don't like to be confrontational. To be honest, like, my perfect life, I don't know what my perfect life would be. Probably having a family, just playing sports, enjoying myself, like, doing something else. But life is not perfect. So here we are. And we all have our struggles. And, got to talk about Tim Pool. It's unfortunate. I'm just kidding. Read your super chat. When did you do it? Sorry. Okay. You would tower over him like the Burj Khali. Is that the Dubai, Saudi Arabia thing? Thank you for the super chat. Or is that the big building in Dubai or something? I don't know. I just don't want him to yell at me. Someone said you're right on most things, not Roseanne Barr, though. Nobody's perfect. Well, I'm not asking you to like everything she says. I've known her and talked with her and hung out with her for years. So my friendship with her is not, it's not like she watches every podcast I do and I watch every podcast she does. She probably doesn't even watch my podcast, which is totally fine. It's like, I'm not telling you to like believe everything ever. Like when I went on her podcast, we disagreed because like we talked about kind of not Q, but like Q adjacent stuff. And that's one thing that like I'm just like I don't buy it. And I explained why I didn't buy it, and she explained why she bought it. So I wouldn't say I'm wrong about it, but I just, it's not like you have to agree on every topic in my view, but whatever. All right, people are baiting me into disrespectful combos. Come on, I'm trying to keep it classy today. Popcorn. I don't get what you're saying. Star Trek. I don't know. There are guests on Tim Pool who make sense, and even Alex Jones is like that. They're not allowed to tell the truth. Yeah, I don't know. People are like, I don't make friends based on foreign policy necessarily. I mean, it's nice when your friends agree with you on everything, but I've covered this. Like, I don't like anyone to try to pressure me into not talking to somebody. Like if I have someone on the podcast and someone says they hang out with Zionists, who cares? Like, so, and then someone's like, well, they hang out with the right wingers. So, well, they hang out with these people. Like, what are we, 5 years old? Like now everybody wants to police. I'm not baked, by the way. I'm not high, by the way. This is just how I act. But I hate that. Like the mainstream media tries to tell me who to talk to and who to hang out with. Then left wingers do that and right wingers do that and Zionists do that and anti-Zionists do that. And it's all really annoying. Like I'm not trying to be controlled and bullied into not being able to talk to somebody. Like that's, just because you might agree with something I say on foreign policy, to me, no offense, it's just as annoying when you try to like tell me who I should talk to, and like I shouldn't talk to them because they talk to other people. This is the same thing that people did to Roseanne. Like people told Roseanne, don't talk to Anomaly because he's this, and then you guys will sit here and say, don't talk to her because like you're doing the same thing that they're doing. It's just as annoying when they do it to her and you do it to me. We're wildly aware that we don't agree on every topic. I mean, we talked about it on our show, but that we both, luckily, we don't give into like, because I would have been annoyed if she would have gave in to the guy telling her not to talk to me. That would have been annoying. And I'm sure she would feel, rightfully, her and her family would feel disrespected if I didn't talk to her because someone told me not to. Like, what type of friend is that? Someone for 5 years, you've met with them multiple times, you hung out with their family. I know her son really well. And now I'm just going to like not talk to her because someone in the comment section told me not to because she talks to someone else. I don't give a crap. Roseanne talks to Rosie O'Donnell. Like who like she knows Rosie O'Donnell. You know what I'm saying? She's known Rosie O'Donnell for 40 years. Who am I to tell her like, she's a grown woman. She's older than me. Like, it's just crazy how people think like this. Like, oh, well, she talks to this person. Her life is her life. She knows a lot of people that I don't know and that I probably don't agree with politically. And it's like, she has every right to have them on her podcast if she trusts them enough to sit down with them. Like, it's just crazy that everyone does that and they don't realize it. It's like, this isn't a game of like not talking to anybody who talks to people who have different foreign policy. Like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm not like trying to police friendships and discussions. I'm just being honest about what I think. So many seem to use guilt by association to manipulate people. Deb stuff. Yes, that's happening. And that's the thing. If people do that here or wherever, you're the same as these other people that we complain about all the time, because that's what they're doing in right-wing media. They're using guilt by association to try to shut off Candace, to try to blacklist me. That's what they've done to me for 5 years. So when you try to do that to Roseanne or someone else, it's just really like scummy. I'm sure you mean well or whatever, but like, like guilt, the guilt by association thing has to stop. Cause like, this person, you've talked to them and they've done this. Like you interviewed Andrew Tate and now I don't like Andrew Tate. So now you can't do that. Like I can't stand that stuff. I don't care who does it. Left wing, right wing, pro Zionist, critical of Zionism, like left, like Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Asian, black, white. Like it's all just annoying. It's like people got to stop that. The guilt by association, like shaming. That's definitely a huge tactic that they're using to like scare people into having conversations or scare people into like blacklisting people. I don't like it. It's like, it is conniving and grimy. It's like, well, Tim talked to that person and talked to that person, so now you can't talk to him because he talked to her. It's like, it's very high school. It's very childish. It's very like, it's very dramatic. I'm not into drama, not with girlfriends or friends. It's like that type of stuff. Like at the end of the day, life is hard. Everybody has rent to pay. A lot of people have health insurance. A lot of people have bills. They got to pay taxes. Like life is not necessarily easy for anybody. So like the last thing you really should want to do, especially with people you like or friends or people you watch podcasts of, is try to like shame them and guilt them into like not talking, or you did like, it's like no one has time for this energy because like it's not, it's just like there's enough going on than to like do that to somebody. It's like, oh, you talked to him, so now I'm not friends with you. And you're like, oh my gosh, like this is like, it just reminds me of being like 15 years old and someone being like, remember when you sat at their table longer than my table? And you're like, please, not now. Because like everyone does that, they do it to her, they do it to me, news agencies do it, and they try to say that you can't do this now. And it's like, it's not good on any shape of the like stretch of the imagination. Someone said Jake Shields. What about him? You just said his name with no words. We're all being gaslit by the elites. Yeah, but also it's like we're also just like being gaslit by other people too. It's not like they're doing everything all the time. It's just like sometimes people are doing it to themselves, or they're choosing to play along to it. I'm a big believer in self-accountability, self-awareness. Like I don't know that I would have got here if I would have thought that way personally. I at the end of the day, it's like trying to just be very aware of what you're doing and trying to like fix your mistakes. To me, that like helped me a lot. Cause it's like at the end of the day, these things are happening. They're talking to them. The elites are doing this. Like, okay, so what am I going to do? Cause at the end of the day, like what I do is going to change the course of like my reality and my career. It's not going to be reacting or being concerned with it. Someone said P. Diddy invited me to a pool party. I don't know if I should go though. I mean, do you like pools? Do you like P. Diddy? Then you should go. I'm just kidding. I'm sure you're joking, but it's kind of funny. if you're already asking if you should go to a Diddy party, someone said you're already gay, bruh. I mean, I don't know. Every stream now, people are asking me if I'd go to a party with P. Diddy. I feel uncomfortable. It's kind of hate speech when you think about it, when you say these things to me. I'm just kidding. But shaming people is as old as time. Calling people crazy if they disagree is an example. Yeah, for sure. It's nothing new. They say there's nothing new under the sun, and a lot of the same like psychological tactics, they're just being rehashed in different ways, or in some cases it's like the same. But I think the internet, maybe I'm wrong, because like I'm sure guilt by association was always a thing, but with the internet, it's just like so much information, it's so much data, it's so many people saying so many things. It's just more. So then maybe this isn't true, but maybe people do it more now because they just see more stuff like, going on. So it's like it's coming from like 1,000 different ways, and it's like it's easy to, back in the day, guilt by association was like, oh, you're friends with that person, you know that person. Now they could be like, you liked that picture. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes on certain social media, I like things to be able to find them later, because on some social media, if you like it, it's like stored. So it's like I don't necessarily even like everything I like. It's like sometimes I'm just trying to go find that video so I could use it on my live stream to like disagree with later. But like that, it's gotten that deep. Like, didn't that NASCAR guy get fired for liking a meme about George Floyd? Like, think about that type of guilt by association. You're fired for liking a post on Instagram. I mean, that sucks. Like that, like it's like, okay, are we going to go through every NASCAR driver's Instagram and see everything that they've ever liked? I mean, that seems like just a little too much, but that's what they do, I guess. I don't know. Appreciate you guys. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. I'm out. Let's keep it under 2 hours. And thanks for listening to today. I'm going to upload it on Rumble, upload it on podcast. It's on Apple and Spotify. Thanks to everybody who listens. 2 links that I'm going to share today. Dreamrare.com. We have beanies left. We have a few sweatshirts. Sweatshirts are almost out. Blue beanies are almost out. We have a decent amount of black beanies, but not unlimited. And I'm trying to sell the store out and go in a new direction and try some new stuff. Hopefully you guys like it. So thank you guys. Dreamrare.com. That's the shop. Check out the Made in America merch. Even got stickers as well. And if not, dreamrarelinks.com. Dreamrarelinks.com. It has all my links. It has my Apple, my Spotify. It has my music. It has my podcast. It has my YouTube, all that stuff. Patreon, if you want secret episodes and just other chats I've had with other people. It's all there at dreamrarelinks.com. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming. And I enjoyed myself thoroughly today. Thanks for a good live stream. And, you had some crazies in the comments. I'm not trying to shame you, but it was pretty civil today. I mean, obviously not everybody was civil. There's always people saying wild stuff, but not only was I on my best behavior, but so was everybody else. Good job. Well, let's ruin it tomorrow. I'm just kidding, but appreciate you. I'm out.
Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk. For $5 a month, you can help support me, support the show. If you haven't noticed, unlike other channels, I don't work with very many sponsors, sometimes none at all. And part of the way I'm able to do that is with the dreamrare.com shop and patreon.com/raretalk. So thank you guys for keeping this show free, unimpeded, uninterrupted. I'm forever grateful. My